Welcome to the Fourth Part Podcast, where Masons can meet to discuss Freemasonry, life, and the world around them. The opinions of the participants are their own and do not represent any Grand Lodge stance or opinion. And now here are your hosts, Worshipful Brother Matthew Andrew Sales, aka the Grumpiest Past Master, and Brother Daniel Massiana, aka the OG Daniel Son.
We weren't recording.
Oh, what? Why'd you do that? Anyway,
Hold
going
on.
back to that.
Wait. What?
Are we good? No, I'm saying
Yes,
like
so we've gone completely off the road.
in life,
This is
though.
bad, yeah.
Listen, in life, I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
guys.
there we go. Oh, we were black, too.
Whoa.
We were faded to black. God, we're a
That's deep.
disaster.
Now we're light.
Yeah,
so
now we're in the light.
from
We look
darkness to
good.
light. So I was saying, like, in lodge, that's where guys kind of don't get the whole experience because they're not being unapologetic. Help me out.
Unapologetic.
I thought it was just me.
Unapologetically. Oh,
Yeah.
my God. It's a tongue
What's in
twister.
that hat? Not a brain.
Not a
No.
brain. It's definitely not a brain.
My man.
Jeez Louise.
My man. No, but listen, you can't address the imperfections unless you call them out, right? You can't fix the imperfection unless you make them known. So if you're walking around with this fake image of who you're trying to be, not who you are, you're gonna fall short. It doesn't matter. Damn, these things are flapping in the breeze. It's the hat, but I'm not taking it off.
Yeah, I think we're committed at this point.
Yo, we look crazy.
Oh, boy.
But that's what it's about. And don't worry, you still look fly.
You know, the grotto would be proud. we're not even a
listen,
tenth of what those guys normally are.
I still am like, listen, what did they put in this thing that they needed it so tall back in the day? Like, were they pulling rabbits out back then? Right?
Yeah. So, where did we leave off? We left off with
Oh, listening.
listening but not hearing.
That's deep, man. Because to listen, listening. Wait, you said listening, not hearing. No, hearing.
Listening but not hearing.
Okay. Elaborate. Before I do.
So, how many times in and out of lodge have you actually said something to somebody and not felt like they've actually heard you? Well, we said this in a previous episode where you're just doing like, okay, yeah,
That's
that's
crazy.
crazy,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're just listening, like you're not hearing.
Yeah, just being polite, right?
You know,
But are you saying anything of value? Again, right? Only speak when you're improving the silence. And I feel like sometimes the right? Those things that we feel the silence can build anticipation, right? If you're really a wordsmith. But in order to do that, you have to you have to listen to what they're saying. Because then you could communicate your response in a way that they'll understand, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the art of communication. But a lot of people aren't saying anything worth saying, or they just want to be heard, right?
yeah.
So if you're not
Right.
really,
Some people just want
Yeah.
the actual have the physical person be listening to them, but not actually hearing them. You know, it's
right?
then it's a human condition. You know, it's venting, it's griping, it's whatever you want to call it.
Also, how you grew up, right? How many times you try to talk? Grown-ups are talking.
Yeah.
You didn't say excuse me. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Right.
is it child trauma?
No. I think it's just a natural human thing to do where it's it's a defense mechanism or it's a coping mechanism for some things where there's people just need to get stuff out. And that's why we're there for our brothers sometimes is you need to hear them out. Let them get it out of their system so they feel like they're being the art of being able to genuinely hear somebody and empathize with them is it's hard. It's impossible to fake. So I mean, some people are good at it, but it's you
got to have the intention though.
If you truly care about somebody,
you
should be able to actually empathize with them. It's on some level to give that person something they need to be able to get past whatever they're going through.
It's the building aspect of it because even so, right, you have somebody that's trying to genuinely communicate their, feelings or whatnot, right? You don't make them feel heard. They start rushing. They're stuttering. There's no art in it, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of want them to give them the space of the flow. What are you looking for, man?
I think I lost something. I was looking for. I'm looking for my wallet, but I'm not wearing my wallet.
Is it in your other clothes before you change?
No. It probably is.
Oh, man. You look like my friend. He used to be like on ecstasy. He's like feeling himself.
Panicked out. Like, I'm like, oh, my God, what did I do with that?
That's how I am when I'm like, oh, shit, where's my cell phone?
Yeah. Well, I was looking for my cell phone, but it's literally like right in front of me right now.
Right. Yeah, I had this guy when I was a mechanic. He was always on ecstasy. And he'd feel himself the same way. Not alluding to that's what you're doing because you're a responsible individual. But it just brought me back.
I just kind of panicked for a second because I didn't want my phone to, if I turned it off silent by accident, just go off in the middle of the podcast.
Right. It happens.
So I gotta take...
Imperfectly perfect. Right? You got to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. People thrive in that. I thrive in that. I love it. Like, make me feel uncomfortable in a respectful way because I'm still a gentleman. But I love being put in a position where I'm not able to keep my cool in a sense because all the teachings come to fruition there, right?
Right.
It's like the game time shot. You take the shot, it's either going to be a game winner or you learn. Did I force that shot? Should I have passed it off? Do I need to take 1,000 more jump shots, I don't know. It's growth, development.
So do you feel like that? Do you feel like that brothers hear each other?
It's tough in this subject because
well, let's be honest about it. Tough subjects in lodges. Mm-hmm. Finances. Mm-hmm. Direction of the lodge.
I'm gonna go even deeper if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Brothers wanting to leave their legacy in the lodge or even ritual, right? If you want to get higher into like Grand Lodge, but certain people like, hey, listen, I wanna put a new bar in the building. I want to put a new floor. I want to change up the wallpaper, right? That's their legacy because they come into lodge and they own a piece of the building at that point and say, hey, listen, I did a charity. I raised the money. I did this. I did that. But, not every brother might have seen that episode of HGTV. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, that really doesn't resonate with me. I don't like that. So to be able to tell a brother, hey, listen, I think your style is trash. You don't want to offend a brother, but you're like, hey, listen, I got to come here for the rest of my life.
Right.
I don't want to see.
My family's got to see this.
Right. I don't want to say, hey, listen, yeah, I belong over there, and they just put goldfish wallpaper on the wall. That's not cool. You know what I mean?
Funeral home carpet.
Hey, some of that stuff is all right because, with all the floral pattern,
we got to do what we have to do.
It hides the stains. Sorry. I saw that episode of HGTV. I'm a DIYer. Do it yourself. Yeah.
We got a fly flying around
It's
here.
a
I think.
moth. It's a moth.
Is it a
A moth.
fairy?
No,
Could
it's
be
a moth.
It could be a fairy.
Yo, you ever smell mothballs before?
Does that starts to explain a lot about you, Danny?
No, I'm just asking. If you have.
Yeah, I know what mothballs smell like, but I wouldn't say.
How do you get the little legs apart? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god!
That was not rehearsed. I know for the people that know me that will watch this, I get them with that all the time. I got my mother-in-law with that. She's got a very heavy accent. She's like, "What are you talking about, my friend?" It was good though. I'm a dad joke veteran.
I've heard more dad jokes in the lodge than I have ever
There
from
was
my own father.
There was an 8-year-old. He was spicy today with the dad jokes at the
Oh, yeah, he
party
was on
today.
point.
Yeah,
He was on point.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. But you can tell again, like even in a Mason's child, right? In the interaction of he's coming by the lodge to do some work. He's changing ceiling tile, and he might bring his son or his daughter. How well spoken they are, how they carry themselves. It's like, all right, this is the future. The future is looking promising. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, how do we impart what we learn in a lodge
right?
without? It's important to do it without being so overt, right? It's important to be like, say, show our children, show our friends, show our family that I'm a Mason without saying I learned this from here.
Right. And it's the everlasting journey of constantly trying to be the best version of yourself. Because we all slip up. We live day to day.
Of course, nobody is perfect.
Right. And me, listen, man, I'm no better than the next guy. But I guarantee you, my wanting to be better is a little bit higher than the most. But again, like in doing that, you have the devil on one side and you got the angel on the other, and they argue a lot, you know? There's days where we're the highest version of ourselves, and there's days where we're the lowest. And when you're so involved in your surroundings, it's that much more things that are influencing you, right? That instant gratification, the feeling of not accomplishing your goal, the not having things go your way, even though you're so invested, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're so part of your environment, everything kind of affects you in a certain way. But then there's people that they just sit back and they're angels, right? But at the same time too, they've never jumped into the fight.
Well, that's one of the things, right? Prudence.
Right. Prudence. Big word.
Yeah, it's being prudent.
Right.
And it's something that's lost, I feel, in our generation.
Mm-hmm.
Where we haven't learned how to be prudent in our thoughts and actions and be patient.
That's big.
It's
big.
it's something that's, and it takes a lot of skill and a lot of patience and a lot of work to be prudent. Have you ever read George Washington's Rules to Chivalry?
No.
Oh,
But I will.
it's a small
I love
book.
George Washington.
It's a small book. It's great. You know, it's rules. I'm probably getting it wrong exactly. His Rules to Chivalry, and a lot of it revolves around being prudent.
He's such a good leader. Like
Being measured.
Yeah.
Being
Right.
measured in your actions, in your words, in your speech, and there's so much of that is lost.
Right.
It goes back to our first episode about the Masonic.
Right.
You know, filling that silence.
Right.
That's your prudence right there. Is just take that second. It's
and
important.
trusting, right? Trust. And for somebody like him who he really never really wanted it. Like he never wanted the job. But
Right. It almost
he
seemed
knew
like to
he-
him, he's like, do I really need to show
No.
people how to show people this?
But
because
he knew
probably
nobody could do it to
instinctually-
his caliber, really, right?
It's almost like he knew that, hey, masonry taught me this, and
It's my
you-
due diligence.
There is things that, you know, if you fully subscribe to it and fully live it, and you've done it for long enough that you just it almost becomes a natural thing for a man to just assume
Right.
that everyone else must think this way, right? So if he might have been like, I figured these were like universal thoughts and truths. Like I didn't think I needed to show people. It's just a natural thing
Well,
to think like everyone else. I
listen.
thought this is self-evident that I didn't need to actually say. And that was the beauty in the founders. They were like, we're going to say these things are self-evident, meaning that they speak for themselves. They shouldn't be argued with. But they felt enough to actually write down those words in the Declaration of Independence to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Mm-hmm.
And things that are self-evident don't need to be written down.
No.
But they knew enough to say, well, we know them to be self-evident, but maybe everybody else doesn't quite
No, of
understand
course not.
what exactly we're thinking. What exactly that they should, or maybe they're too afraid to actually say it out loud.
Right.
So we're going to say it for them.
Well, not everybody's gonna fight for somebody else, right? It's called responsibility, right? But let's break it down. Your responsibility, your ability to respond appropriately, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the word. So you see things that are self-evident that are being countered or being challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to call it out. We hold these truths to be self-evident. It's your ability to respond. Like you have to respond to things accordingly. You have to fight for what's right for the people who can't.
Yeah. It's you get to the point where when you assume things,
Or you wait for somebody else to do it.
right? If you can assume something,
Mm-hmm.
but if you never actually say it out loud to somebody, you're probably gonna. It's a recipe for disaster. You're
Right.
gonna eventually find out like, oh, I'm kind of in my own world here,
And you get what you get.
right?
You get what you get. But to truly invest and take that extra effort to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
even when it's uncomfortable, right? You know what? It might be a mess, but at least it's out there, and we'll clean it up, right? And people know where
this
you're coming
podcast.
from, right? Yeah, yeah, we'll clean it up. I mean, look, we started off, we were trying to be polished.
And we've ended up with this.
A little bit of heartburn. You're looking fly. You got
Domino's
the hat on.
heartburn, yeah.
Yo,
Which nobody judges. We live in New York and we got Domino's tonight, but it's the only thing open at this hour. It is over 4:00 in the morning.
is it?
Yeah.
I love it. And we didn't even drink that much, to be honest with you.
No, we had a couple drinks.
We got good stuff on the table too.
And we got a late start tonight.
This interview / podcast was not brought to you by Balvini or Glenlivet. However, they are the choice of the grumpiest past master and the OG Daniel son.
Yeah.
Maybe one day they'll be sponsors.
You never know.
You never know.
Maybe we could
You
just
never know.
enjoy it too.
Yeah.
But
it's
going
good
back to where we originally started, which was being listened to but not heard. What do you think someone could do to get them to listen to you? Is it answer that first and then I'll go beyond that.
So certain keywords, right? And it goes back to the art of communication, right? So some people say, I don't know, give me a subject. Freemasonry is this, right? That generates a response, right? So when you say things like, from what I understand, or from what I've heard, or my impression, people are going to fully listen to you because they want to make sure that their response is a logical one to what you just said. So they're going to listen to everything you had to say, whether they pick it apart or take pieces and use it. But they're going to listen. But when you say, hey, oh, this is this, it's final.
Right.
There's no room for...
Yeah.
Some people want to build off of what you said as opposed to, no, let's just throw the whole opinion out and this is what it is, you know?
Right. The fact, if you don't give people an out,
Right.
right? If you don't give them, this is how I see it, where they can interject their own thoughts into it, you're going to lose them right away. Because there's not much in masonry that is finite.
No.
There's not much in masonry that's this is it and that's it.
Right.
And there are things that are like that, but you need to let somebody know that, hey, I've processed this. Let them know that I've put some time and some effort into my thought
Exactly.
process into this, and this is how I see it. And let them know that you are open to the way they feel. So they feel comfortable to be able to express
It's
how
almost
they feel
intention,
about it.
right? Intention.
But if you, like you said, if you make it so black and white to them, they're not going to feel. Most people, there might be some people that are like, all right, I'm going to dig my heels in too, and I'm going to. But that's not what masonry's about. That shouldn't be with anything that you're about. That's any
Right.
opinion you have.
Yeah.
You know, you should say like, this is how I feel about it, but still present it in a way where you're like, I am open to hear your side.
Right. And that's, I don't know if it was the art of warfare. You know me, I'm with my quotes. I'm a quote a day, day kind of guy. But in the art of warfare, someone said it. I don't know who it is. I will give you credit if you're still alive. If not, sorry. But in the art of verbal warfare, you always leave an escape route for either your opponent or you to leave and join their side, right? Because obviously, you want to walk away with your integrity intact. You don't want it to be an argument. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. So if they're saying, at the end of the day, we're all trying to battle to harness some type of knowledge, right? Or some type of skill that we will use going forward. So I don't also want to close off my resource. So if I have somebody who's willing to engage in conversation with me, right, and is willing to teach me, I have to. That's an open resource, right? There's a story of a potato farmer and a guy who grows apple trees, right?
Apple trees.
You ever heard that one?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Share
go
it,
ahead.
though.
No,
Share
I'll
it.
let you finish it.
No, you go ahead.
All right, so this guy, he's a potato farmer, and potatoes, as you know, grow in the ground. So some guy's like, man, you like potatoes, and I'm butchering this right now, but you understand what we have on the table. So he says, you got to try apples. They're luscious, they're juicy, and you got to try it. So the potato farmer's like, okay, well, how do I get apples? He's like, well, you got to go to the tree. It's up on the top of the hill. So the potato farmer makes his way up there, and he sees the apple tree, and he starts digging. He's like, there's no apples here. But that's because he's taken his past learning, his past, strategy on how he executes a plan.
Right. He only knows that way how to do it.
He only knows that way. Right?
And he didn't listen to the apple
And he
farmer.
didn't listen to the apple farmer. Right? He didn't go that much further because he didn't also want to make himself, his own pride didn't allow him to ask questions that would enhance his experience. The apple farmer would have said, hey, once you get to the apple tree, look up.
Yeah.
and that's it. You know.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. So how do you think we're doing so far?
Man, I almost said who cares, but I care.
I do care too. I think
But I care.
I think that
That was the pride in me speaking right now. Ego is not your amigo. We definitely care.
where do you see
Hmm.
masonry
It's
as
tough.
we get older?
It's tough. It's in a scary time right now because it's loosening. It's, in my opinion, again, this is my humble opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to become a Mason now than ever because in its current state, values aren't held as high as they were, and membership is low.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for Masonry to survive, you have to have members. However, with the current state of society, how expensive things are, life gets in the way, right? And you have, because Masonry doesn't project, it doesn't show, it doesn't advertise, it doesn't recruit. You have to know one, and you have to ask one to be one. And if you have lack of members, you don't really see Masons.
There was a brother. There was a brother that I that I was listening to,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gonna say his name because I don't have his permission. He gets knowledge out
Mm-hmm.
to the world.
This is on a platform, or
It was on a platform,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna say who because
Okay.
again I don't have his permission yet. He actually said something, and I don't know if it originated from him, but
Mhm.
I did like it. And I've heard this term from brothers, you know, I've been a brother, and they use the term masonry is going through a distillation process.
Mm-hmm.
And when you distill liquor, it becomes more refined.
Mm-hmm.
You're boiling off the water and leaving the alcohol. And his point was you need to make sure that you don't distill it so much, because if you boil too much off, you start to lose the alcohol too.
Right.
So we want to make sure masonry was huge in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s.
But it was a strong decline.
It was. And there was a strong decline.
Like almost 30% of membership was lost.
But I feel like that he kind of hit the nail on the head when he said, this distillation's fine. You end up with a better product as long as you don't let it boil too much.
Now, in reference to that, right, I agree with you 1,000%. But I feel as of late, once brothers actually become Masons, they're not held to the same standard that the brothers of 20, 30, 40 years ago were held,
Mhm.
right? There's certain things that are turned away, right? If you don't, for example, you don't have to be a ritualist, and that's somebody who knows the ritual, if not so much a practitioner, but somebody who understands and knows ritual, right? The historical teachings, I should say, not ritual, because ritual might sound crazy to somebody who's not a Mason, but there's certain things, certain memorizations, certain way you carry yourself that brothers kind of turn right or turn left to, and they bypass, right? So, like, when it comes to giving a brother a job, or even watching a brother fall short, in my opinion, it's excusable with the current state of Masonry because we are lacking in membership.
So let me make this like analogy then.
Right.
If Masons are the alcohol,
Mhm.
if Masons are the whiskey, and we're distilling the whiskey. And we're the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the raw corn whiskey, moonshine, alcohol. Isn't then the lodge the oak barrel?
Right.
Is it the lodge as a whole's job to flavor
Absolutely.
those Masons?
Absolutely.
So we need to put the care and the time in to add that flavor.
And yeah,
To
and
make
make
that-
it harder too,
Yes,
right?
and age that liquor that we've now distilled it, right? We've gotten down to the best spirits, right? The highest purity alcohol
Right.
that you can get down to. Not too many people want to sit around and just drink straight moonshine. It might be too
Nah,
harsh.
of
It's too
course,
rough.
of course,
It's still
of course.
right. That raw alcohol. It could be 200 proof. It could be 100% out. It's too rough to swallow for the
Right.
world. But the lodge then takes that alcohol and ages it in its barrel and makes it smooth
Right.
and easy for the world to drink and enjoy.
Right. And it's a dangerous way to go, right? Because a lot of times we sacrifice great for good.
Yeah.
And then good becomes a standard. And then once good kind of fades away, we sacrifice good for mediocre. Right? And then we sacrifice mediocre for whatever we could get.
Okay. Yeah.
And okay, right. And then there's a steady downtrend.
Right, and then you end
But
up with well liquor at some
right,
point.
right. You have to hold that standard. You have to hold that tradition. It's essential. It's essential to what we are, who we believe we are, and what we stand for. We don't do things because they're easy. We do things because we can do them, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like JFK said, we're not going to the moon for what?
Because it's easy.
Right.
You're doing it because it's hard.
Right. And that's what essentially being a Mason is. It's showing your imperfections, allowing people to call you out because you are a rough ashler, and making the necessary adjustments. And hopefully when it's all said and done, you have a nice piece, right? The foundation of what you want is your foundation. Whatever sculpture you put on top is good, right? But certain people have a horrible foundation. They put this beautiful sculpture up there, but the foundation is going to crumble. If your foundation and what you believe you truly are is sound, no matter what you put there, the foundation will never crumble. You could rebuild that statue 1,000,000 times, but the foundation is never going anywhere.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
So, yeah, we'll leave it at this, I think, tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Keep your foundation true. Age your Masonic experience for the world to enjoy.
Right.
And safe travels, brothers.
Safe travels. Fraternal greetings from New York.